Today is Friday, November 14, 2014, the 318th day of the year. There are 47 days remaining until the end of 2014. Let's talk about detail gunner Joe McCarthy, whose birthday it is today, from Grand Chute, Wisconsin, born this day in 1908. McCarthy enlists in the U.S. Marine Corps early in World War II in 1942 and rises to the rank of captain, flying combat missions in the Pacific. 1946, war over. McCarthy, on the Republican ticket, successfully campaigns for the U.S. Senate, defeating three-term Senator Robert M. La Follette Jr., a progressive, whom McCarthy attacks for not joining up to fight the fascist Axis and accuses La Follette of being a war profiteer. It's a winning strategy for McCarthy. La Follette is 46 and a sitting U.S. Senator when Pearl Harbor is attacked on December 7, 1941, too old for active duty, and his only profitable investments during the war years are in a local Wisconsin radio station. McCarthy, as a Marine, invests in a booming wartime Wall Street, taking $42K in 1940s dollars as earnings. Well, so what? It's all legal. The anti-communist movement of the Cold War years is an inspiration to McCarthy. In 1950, during a speech in Wheeling, West Virginia, McCarthy says, "The State Department infested with communists." I have here in my hand a list of 205, a list of names that were made known to the Secretary of State as being members of the Communist Party, who nonetheless are still working and shaping policy in the State Department. America has the jits about communism, the fantods. The Soviets are expanding in Eastern Europe. The Nationalists in China are defeated in 1949 by Chinese communists led by Mao Tse Tung. North Korean communists have overrun the South, leading to engagement of Americans in the Korean War. America's nuclear weapons laboratory in New Mexico, riddled with Soviet spies, leading directly to the Russian bomb. It's hard times in the West and high times for Joe McCarthy, who becomes in short order the most powerful senator in Washington. Everybody's scared of him. In 1953, during his second term as senator, McCarthy becomes chairman of the Senate Committee on Government Operations, which includes the Senate Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations, which McCarthy uses as his personal tribunal to sniff out communists and homosexuals in government. He appoints Roy Cohn, 26, who has his own experience sniffing out homos, as his chief counsel, and the 27-year-old future Attorney General and U.S. Senator from New York, more familiar name here, Robert Francis Xavier Kennedy, as assistant counsel. In autumn 1953, McCarthy's committee begins investigating suspected communist subversion in the United States Army. The Army pushes back in early 1954, accusing McCarthy and Roy Cohn of using the Senate Committee to pressure the Army into giving preferential treatment to Cohn's friend, G. David Schein, then serving as an Army private. Hearings are scheduled into the matter. McCarthy steps down from committee chairmanship, and Republican South Dakota Senator Carl Mundt assumes the position. Before the committee can convene the Army-McCarthy hearings in Washington, Edward R. Murrow from New York, on his Sunday night CBS television program See It Now, and two successive programs beginning March 9, 1954, eviscerates McCarthy with a series of film clips showing McCarthy at work, saying the Democratic Party is guilty of 20 years of treason, that the ACLU is a front organization doing work for the international communist conspiracy. Murrow returns an accusation that McCarthy is a fearmonger, using his senatorial position to accrue personal political influence. The second program on March 16, 1954, documents McCarthy's methods, detailing the case of Annie Lee Moss, an African-American Army clerk whom McCarthy has smeared as a subversive. On April 6, 1954, McCarthy himself appears on See It Now at Murrow's invitation. McCarthy proceeds to accuse Murrow of colluding with a Russian espionage and propaganda organization. Nobody's buying it. It's the beginning of the end for McCarthy. Starting August 22, 1954, from the Senate caucus room in Washington, the Army-McCarthy hearings are broadcast on the new ABC television network. Now, ABC's got Disney and McCarthy. The hearings are over on the Dumont network, too, in their entirety, 8 hours a day for 36 weekdays throughout 6 weeks. Spring 1954, you can't turn on the TV without seeing his face. Kids come home from school looking for Popeye cartoons. They get Looney Tunes from D.C. with Joe McCarthy, who, in close-up on television, sweats, hectors witnesses, seems confused, wanders, insinuates, fails to produce any evidence to back up his claims, refuses to testify. On June 9, McCarthy is called upon to testify under oath about a classified letter purportedly written by J. Edgar Hoover himself, director of the FBI, naming people within the government suspected of communist affiliation. McCarthy will not reveal where the letter comes from or who gave it to him. Attorney General Herbert Brownell sends the message that Hoover denies writing any such letter, revealing the letter to be a forgery. When Chief Counsel for the Army Joseph Welch tries sarcasm to try pulling any shred of evidence or information from Roy Cohn, McCarthy takes off his gloves and lays into Welch by questioning the loyalty of one of Welch's legal aides, Fred Fisher. Welch responds by asking McCarthy, "Have you no sense of decency, sir, at long last?" McCarthy senses blood in the water, but not realizing it's his own, continues twisting the knife. He wants to keep talking about Fred Fisher, about his membership in the Lawyers Guild, supposedly a leftist organization. Welch simply dismisses McCarthy as reckless, uncooperative, asks the chairman to call the next witness. Hearings sputter to an inconclusive finish June 17, 1954. On December 2, 1954, the United States Senate votes to censure McCarthy for resisting investigation of his methods and behavior while under oath. The censure takes effect immediately. McCarthy continues to serve in the Senate, though biographer Richard Rovere writes that powerless, he's a changed man. Journalist Tom Wicker reports McCarthy is often alarmingly drunk on the floor of the Senate. He suffers from cirrhosis of the liver. On May 2, 1957, Joseph McCarthy dies at Bethesda Naval Hospital. He's 48 years old. Broadcast journalist Edward R. Murrow writes, "We must not confuse dissent with disloyalty. We must remember always that accusation is not proof, and that conviction depends upon evidence and due process of law. We will not walk in fear one of another. We will not be driven by fear into an age of unreason. If we dig deep into our history and our doctrine, we will remember that we are not descended from fearful men, not from men who feared to write, to speak, to associate, and to defend causes that were, for the moment, unpopular." From Rutland, Vermont, this is Richard Alcott speaking.